Campus college football preview video. Today we are taking a look at some week one matchups. It's me as always, but we're here with a guest, and it's an old friend, Joe Duffy. You can find him on Twitter at Offshore Insider. Joe Duffy, I've talked in the past about when I first started doing this way back. You were one of the first people that people that have ever watched on video doing college football stuff. I remember you did videos with Peter Loshak back in the day. It's good to see you, Joe. How you doing?
No, I'm doing fantastic, big man. Thank you for having me, Jeff. And look, like I've always said, I consider myself more of an advanced analytics guy, but there is nobody, and I know it sounds like we're kissing each other's butts and whatnot. We're both from Philly, so, Philly area, so we kind of enjoy arguing, but I don't think there's anybody who's better at what I like to call organic handicapping than Jeff Nadeau is, as far as knowing the personnel and the personnel matchups, and even more so in college basketball, but college football, all the sports, but college basketball, you're ridiculous. But thank you for having me on.
That's very nice of you, Joe. It means a lot coming from you. Always look forward to talking to you. What we're going to do each week, we're going to have Joe on to talk about a couple games that he has his eye on in college football. And we're going to start out on Friday, August 30th, 2019. Football is back. No more week 0, no more preseason. NFL will finish at their preseason this week, and college football week 1's here. We got a big card. Let's take a look at Tulsa and Michigan State. Interesting game here. You look at the line currently, 23.5, a total at 47.5. So basically, we're banking on a pretty low-scoring game. Most of the points will probably come from Michigan State. But I want to quickly talk about Tulsa, Joe. And, Tulsa's really looked different over the last couple of years. The guys like Dane Evans are gone. And, this offense at times really struggled last year to move the football. The run game is really all they had as far as moving the ball. Quarterback play wasn't good, but they went out and got a quarterback, Zach Smith. Zach Smith played a few years at Baylor. He actually had a couple good seasons there before they went another way. That has to work for them this year. They have to learn and be able to throw the football. If they get back to that offensive standard that they had a couple years ago, this might be a pretty interesting team. I mean, you look at offensively last year, Joe, and I'm sure you've saw this. This team improved from a yardage given up standpoint of almost 122 yards a game. They made a real move defensively. And, with a lot of starters back, you'd have to figure that will continue. The concern also, Michigan State. You look at this year, obviously a lot of high aspirations for this group off of a bad season. But this is a team that, look, for the better part of last year, they could not move the football. 14 points or fewer, 6 different times last year. They just bogged down. There was no size in the backfield. Lewerke at times had injuries and was ineffective. They need to get back to scoring the football, as does Tulsa, because this defense is loaded. I mean, they're a great run defense. You'd have to figure it's going to take some time before the offense gets going, but this defense is a rock. I want to hear your thoughts in this game because, if I'm looking at this game, I actually might consider taking the points. I've seen Zach Smith, pretty good quarterback, and I have to think he can move the ball. What do you like in this game, Joe? Tulsa, Michigan State.
Yeah, and Jeff, it looks like Montgomery hasn't officially announced his starting quarterback. They may go with the 2 quarterbacks, but I agree with you. The tea leaves seem to say that Zach Smith will play. And, of course, when you come from Baylor and you go to a quote-unquote mid-major, usually you figure that you're probably going to play. So I do agree with you. He will most likely be that. As far as all the stuff that you said, I always say when it comes to handicapping totals, it's more about handicapping what the pace is rather than offensive or defensive efficiency. And Tulsa, one of the reasons that their defense was improved last year was because they didn't really have that high-powered offense that they've had in the past. I do think they will most likely have a more high-powered offense this year, obviously, but which might mean their defensive numbers won't be quite as good, even if they have the defensive personnel. But what you said, yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards taking the points. It's a term that I like to use quite often, predictably unpredictable. Michigan State, they are they have a new offensive coordinator. They've been pretty quiet about what type of offensive schemes they're going to use this year. Like we said, Tulsa, we don't know what to expect. We think they're much better on offense than they were in previous years. They'll probably go with 2 quarterbacks, but I do agree that the Baylor transfer is going to be the number 1 guy. And one of my golden rules is odds makers despise uncertainty. And when you have uncertainty in such a big line here, and especially since we're getting a couple more points than the opener, I do think the underdog is a pretty high percentage play.
Yeah, I think the obvious concern here is, whoever the quarterback's going to be for Tulsa, they had pretty good success this year running the ball. It's, can they complete passes down the field? I mean, this team has to move the ball. We know that this Michigan State secondary is pretty good, but this is a secondary last year for Tulsa. I mean, what a move they made to become a legitimate group defensively. They were 8th last year nationally in pass defense, which I was blown away to see. I couldn't believe that. That was quite interesting to hear. But yeah, I think pace will be interesting. I kind of see this game as, you look at last year, Joe, real quick. Tulsa, for as poor as they were at times, Texas 28-21. They're right in that game. I think right out of the gate here, I think Michigan State struggles a little bit. I think as the season goes on, they'll get better and better, and they'll win this game. But I think in the first game, this might be a good spot. Tulsa's been worried about Michigan State for a long time. So I think we're in agreement here, Joe, maybe grabbing the points here. Plus, we're above some of those key numbers. I'd love to see this one maybe get to 24 and a half, maybe by game time. You have a couple days till then. So that would be nice as well. You have to figure a lot of the public will come in and take Sparty here. Should be interesting, Joe. Looking forward to it. We'll take a look at another game in another video. As always, Joe, we can find you on Twitter at Offshore Insider. Go support Joe. He's been in the business, I think, longer than I've been alive. Is that correct, Joe? When did you start this business?
Yeah, I started full-time after I graduated college in 1988, but I used to work in Philly for a Philadelphia gambling legend, Mickey Charles, while I was in college. So my first job in the industry was for Dow Sports, and I think that was 1986, I believe.
Well, I was born in 89, Joe, in July. So, listen, there's not a lot of people that have been in longer than Joe. Frankly, from a known standpoint, I don't know of anybody. I mean, there's some guys that have been around a long time, but, I mean, that's over 30 years in a business. Joe's learned a lot along the way. And I'm telling you right now, I do not vouch for many people in this business. I hate them, most of them. Joe, I love. I think he's terrific. I think he puts out some really good info. He's analytical, but he makes points that you understand. Some of these people talk about nonsense. Joe makes it come out and you hear correctly. So, Joe, thanks for coming on. We'll get you on another video, and we'll look forward to doing these every week. Joe Duffy, everybody. I'm the Big Man on Campus. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you're on in the comment box. We'll see you for another video down the road.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Joe.